And I just kept thinking about them. God, you're helping him. It's amazing, to see how far this horse has come.
It's not easy, it's hard. We would rather starve than let our horses starve. We want the horses. We want to help them. We want to be able to make a difference in their lives.
The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Horse Plus Humane Society, the Full Circle of Life Network, or any of their employees or management. The information contained in this presentation is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Any reliance you place on such information is strictly at your own risk. We strongly encourage you to conduct your own independent research and seek professional advice as needed.
All right, good morning, everyone. Today we are doing a lot of very interesting things, and I am dressed as if I was going to Washington, D.C. and lobbying all day. And the presentation that we're going to be talking about is laws that greatly impact the lives of horses, and each one of you can be a major advocate for horses in Washington, D.C. If you can't go to Washington, D.C., and speak in person, it's not as much of an impact, but if you can go and be a voice of reason and logic and sharing what you're seeing on the front lines, it does make a huge impact. So Dawn is going to be passing out a booklet that I take to Washington, D.C. with me, and we're going to go over the proposed legislations. Oh, it's not this. Yes, it is. We're going to be going over the proposed legislations of these laws that are actually up there right now that potentially could greatly impact the lives of horses. And changing laws is what we all need to be also focusing on, because if we do not get the laws changed, horse slaughter will continue to happen. And I know that you all saw a very short video that didn't show a lot, but it was very traumatic. And if the world knew, if the United States knew what was actually happening, it would not be still happening. If rescues were not fighting and bickering against each other constantly, and we were focused on the real problems and actually fixing these real problems, it wouldn't be happening. And that is why a part of the Full Circle Life Horse Shelter Network is now moving towards focusing on lobbying and also training each person here how to be a lobbyist. Anyone can go to Washington, D.C. and speak with representatives. There's really no fancy thing about it other than they have a dress code that's like this, which is really weird. I had to go buy clothes to go up to Washington, D.C. So when I go to Washington, D.C., I am able to go with 20 years of experience of frontline work. There's nobody in Washington, D.C. that is going up and speaking to congressmen and representatives that has 20 years of experience of frontline horse rescue work, that has rescued 12,000 horses, and that can speak to them and be like, this is what's happening and this is why it needs to stop. And they listen and they're like, wow, we never knew this. Like, there's so many meetings I walk away from and they're like, thank you so much for coming and talking to me. It really makes sense now, and now we understand why this is so important. Shockingly enough, To me, going up to Washington, D.C., I was under the impression that some really large organizations that receive millions and billions of dollars, they were up in Washington, D.C. really lobbying for these laws. I kind of had that in my mind. I'm like, they're up there and they're pushing it, and I'm over here rescuing horses, and they're taking care of these really big issues. Sadly enough, I found out, speaking to another lobbyist up there, which you'll see here in a minute, is that he's been there for years, and in the last 3 years, he hasn't seen one of the people from those organizations once walking the halls actually talking to people, which was shocking to me. And he says basically they sit behind their computer and send emails. Is an email from somebody that was hired 3 years ago that just got into animal work and they're getting paperwork, are they going to have a voice like we have? Absolutely not. If we can go and say we have been in the trenches with these horses and this is what we're actually seeing, laws are going to change. But they haven't changed because people are sitting there behind a computer, or somebody is like, well, I have this information here. I represent this organization, and horse slaughter needs to end. And these are some things that, I want to present to you. And they have no idea what they're actually really talking about because they've never been in the trenches like we have. We have a very unique perspective of being able to go up and change these laws in a significant way. One thing that is shocking for most people that I'm talking to up there, if you turn over to this page in the handout, is that the AVMA has put a position out that they are the exportation of horses across the borders for the sole purpose of slaughter for human consumption must end. Now, I've memorized that. Being dyslexic, I have to get it right when I'm talking to representatives. They're pretty, really, the AVMA is against this? And then that really makes them think, because unfortunately, due to the way a lot of lobbying has been done, is it's people going up without a lot of information. And there has been people going up, and unfortunately, we can be very passionate, but if we don't really know what we're talking about and we're not doing it in a professional way, it's not going to come off well in Washington, D.C. So unfortunately, there has been groups. So we have a lobby company that we work with. So if somebody signs up to support the SAFE Act, we can send a packet over with them and speak with them. He's able to speak somewhat on our behalf, but I'm the one that goes up there, and Jason, and we actually are able to sit down, with representatives and really go into these huge topics that are so crucially important. But a lot of them, if you go up and you're not being thoughtful of what the most pertinent information you need to give to these representatives are, you can come across as kind of like Carrie was talking about when you're in court. And you're like, wow, the horses are so nice, and we just don't want them slaughtered. And you have to come with facts and information. And when I can go and present and say, did you know that the AVMA, and I'll say it because I know other people are going to say that to them, but I also want them to know it's the American Veterinarian Medical Association, is made a statement against shipping horses to slaughter, and they're like, really? They have no idea. And they've made this statement, which there's a QR code you can scan to read the whole statement from the AVMA, is that horse meat is toxic, and that's why they've removed their position of support for horse slaughter. Most people in Washington, D.C. do not know that. And when they know that the veterinarians are not supporting horse slaughter, that really makes them think. I was in the office of one of the representatives, and he sat down with us, and he was a very nice man. And he's like, well, I am pro-slaughter, but I'm against abuse. I'm like, I can't go really? But I'm listening. I'm like, okay, all right. And I was able to talk to him about the slaughter pipeline. They're not hearing about the slaughter pipeline. They're not knowing how much abuse and torture is happening within the slaughter pipeline and how much crime and corruption is happening. So we were able to talk to him about that. And then I'm like, you know, in the AVMA, American Veterinarian Medical Association, is anti-horse, shipping horses to slaughter. And he's like, really? They have no idea. And the unique perspective that we're able to have when we go to Washington, D.C. is we're not like every other person speaking out against something. Like, we are unique in the aspect that we are horse people. And if we can go and actually be horse people and knowledgeable horse people and professional, they do want to listen to us. And we can make huge, huge impacts. So I'm going to play a little bit of a video that you'll see what it was like for me the first time going to Washington, D.C. So you can kind of get a feel for it, because part of this network is let's get the laws changed so horses aren't being shipped to slaughter. Then we can operate like these other dog and cat organizations who aren't just, I mean, there's not dogs and cats being exported out of the United States for slaughter, but horses are. So it's not like it's going to put us completely out of a job if horse slaughter goes away. If that's what it takes to make horse slaughter go away, then that's what needs to happen. But horses are still going to need our help, and more than ever when the borders are closed and horses are not being exported for slaughter, because we're going to need this network across the United States of organizations and people that have been trained and ready to help horses when there is going to be this huge number of horses in the slaughter pipeline transitioning that are supposed to go to Mexico, and all of a sudden they can't. And the kill buyers are going to want to wash their hands of them, because all of a sudden those horses are worthless to them. So we're going to give you a little taste of Washington, D.C. here, as soon as my phone cooperates. There's a busy schedule of speaking engagements. So basically the plan is we are going to meet up with the lady that's coordinating all of this and has invited us to come to Washington. And I've never done anything like this before. I mean, I have spoke at the Capitol in California before for Mustangs, but that's not flying to Washington, D.C. and going from meeting to meeting to meeting, being the voice for horses. When Clint was alive, he did so much to try to end the big lick. And I did go and deliver some material to some of the folks in Nashville, but this is a whole new level. It's going to be something else for sure. So I hope you enjoy following along with us today, being the voice for horses in Washington, D.C. If we don't change, you know, we've been rescuing for 20 years. I haven't seen a change. And if we can let people know what we're seeing firsthand and the horror that these horses are going through, that's where change can actually happen. So we'll see how today goes, and might tweak our style a little bit from meeting to meeting, because like I said, I've never really done this before. Yeah, it'll be interesting. So far it's going good. Definitely out of my element, I feel like, but everything is very much different up here. But hopefully we are making a difference and being the voice for horses, and that's what I definitely feel like I'm doing today. There's just a lot of walking. This is most of what we have done up here, is walking and a little talking and more walking and walking and more walking, and then talking.
And then talking and walking.
And then talking.
And then walking and talking. And walking and then talking.
Yes.
So the last meeting was with Congressman Costa's office, and we knew going in, thanks to our lobbying firm, that there was opposition to our equine welfare bills. And Tawnee and Jason were absolutely brilliant, actually really captivated her. She was interested and passionate and shocked and really seemed to connect with Tawnee and Jason over what they talked about. So fantastic meeting, best one of the day, and on to the next.
Last meeting, she is like, let's put you out of work, and that's exactly what I would love. I would love not to have to rescue these animals in horrific situations. So we've done a great job. What you do here is absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you, and it was a joy to sit back and watch you work today. And I hope she just puts me in a place where I can hang out with my horses, and I don't have to drive up to Washington.
Yes. Well, I'm sure we'll be back together doing this again.
Spring, everybody, spring.
Yes, so keep up the amazing work. Yeah, so Marty, thank you so much for meeting with me, and we've had quite the last 2 days of lobbying for the horses, which I know you're very passionate about horses, but why is it important to lobby for animal laws?
Well, Tawnee, thank you so much for being here in Washington, D.C. It's extremely important. I came 10 years ago to Washington to testify at a hearing in support of the PAST Act, Prevent All Soaring Tactics Act, to end the soaring of Tennessee walking horses, and I never dreamed that I would never leave. But I realized, early on that it was the impact that you can have from a policy perspective of how to change things in the country for the betterment of horses and really all animals. We can all rescue a horse, we can all rescue a dog or a cat, and it's wonderful, and I admire the work that you guys do, what you've done with Glimmer and other horses. But at the end of the day, if we're going to solve the problem, we have to make national policy changes that really impacts thousands, tens of thousands of horses' lives.
If somebody's just coming here and reading off paper, like, to actually be able to see it, and from somebody that's been in the trenches, I think I saw a lot of lights come on.
I know years ago, our friend Clancy that we missed, that passed away earlier this year, he used to always bring the big stacks and the chains with him when we'd come up, and that really resonated with people. Seeing those stacks and chains, like, what is this terrible stuff on these horses' feet, really made a difference versus just talking about it or even a picture. And then the same with horse slaughter. Horse slaughter is so gruesome, it's terrible. The majority of the population is so against horse slaughter. It's an important issue right now that I think we stand a good chance of getting something done on because of the farm bill that has to move in 2024 before the end of September. And I would advocate for each of you out there to please, if you can't come to Washington, D.C., come to Washington, D.C. if you can. That's most important. But if you can't come to Washington, D.C., at least call your members of Congress at 202-224-3121. It's 202-224-3121, and ask them to support a ban on horse slaughter in the upcoming Farm Bill by including language that would amend the Dog and Cat Meat Trade Prohibition Act we passed in the last Farm Bill to include American equines. And if we do that, we'll stop 90% of the horse slaughter that's out there. You're still going to have some rogue people that try to beat the system, but we'll stop 90% of it if we do that one thing, and we can get that included in the Farm Bill next year.
Do you have any advice for me on how to, Clint did such an amazing job with the protest, and filling his shoes is impossible, but do you have any advice for me going back to Tennessee on, there's a new show season coming up next year. How can we most impact what's happening to these horses and raising awareness? What's your thoughts?
Well, no, I commend you guys, Tawnee, you and Jason, for all you do at Horse Plus Humane Society and picking up the torch and carrying it. I was kind of worried whether someone would be there to do that or not, because I'm here in D.C. and There are fewer and fewer people in Tennessee these days that are involved. So I think doing what you guys are doing and continuing on with the protests that Clint started, those were always extremely effective. They make a difference. If you really want to make a difference and you want to make a donation to Horse Plus Humane Society. They're up here on Capitol Hill. They've traveled from Tennessee. They're rescuing horses on the ground. And I am here every day. I've been here 10 years. And I can tell you in the past 2 years, I have not seen a single lobbyist from the Humane Society of the United States or the ASPCA on Capitol Hill on any day. And that's kind of shocking, but I call them desk jockeys. They like to lobby from their computer. Well, anybody can lobby from their computer. Being here in person is what counts. What you're doing is what counts. And really and truly, those protests mean a lot because it's about public opinion. It's about creating awareness. So please go show up at the protests and be there to help Tawnee and Jason and Horse Plus Humane Society carry on the torch for Clancy and save these Tennessee walking horses from abuse.
Well, Marty, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to meet with us here. We'll be flying out in the morning, but I just want to thank you for your support and for all that you do for the animals and for what you are trying to do to get a better world for Tennessee walking horses when you're amongst all of them. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, you know, they look at them like, oh, they're all terrible. And I know there's folks in there who don't like it. And I'm at the shows with the flat shot and nobody's cheering or anything for them. And I'm like, woohoo! And the big league people come up and they're like, why are you cheering for them? And I'm like, I think that's how they should be shown. And you know, it's going to take everybody working together, and I think just sharing what's happening for people on social media. And again, just thank you so much for your time and your support and for what you do.
No, and thank you and Jason both and everybody at Horse Plus Humane Society. You guys are doing great work. We're going to get there. I think, you know, we've got a long road ahead of us, but we've made so much progress over the past decade. There's so many people that have changed their minds, and there are a lot of people in the walking horse industry that are good people that don't store horses or don't have stored horses, and they're just trapped in a system where the people who are conducting the abuse and supporting the abuse are in control and in power. So that's why they lose a lot of people in the breed, but eventually I do believe that good will prevail and these horses will be saved.
Tawnee and I are back up here. We're going to be roaming the halls of Congress today. We have a lot of appointments lined up. We're working with a lobby group and another animal welfare organization to really, hopefully, make some major impact on horses and other animals across the United States. So let's get going.
This is a letter of support from our organizations within the Full Circle Life Horse Shelter Network. We can't have all these organizations here today, but all these organizations are in support of this, and so I'll be presenting this letter on their behalf.
So this is a flyer that actually Barbara Moore with Equine Collaborative International put together, and this shows actually all of the anti-slaughter movement around the world. So Canada, we have France, we have Italy, we have Britain, Switzerland, Greece. Greece actually in 2020 outlawed slaughter of horses entirely. Britain also has passed a bill in the House of Commons. So we have actually all the international action here. We have a letter from Animal Wellness Action supporting the SAFE Act. We have a letter from USTA, United States Trotting Association, so our standardbred folks. We have a letter from the Jockey Club, New York Racing Association, New York Thoroughbred Breeders, and New York Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association. We have a letter from Sonia Meadows with Animals Angels. We have a letter, which is absolutely wonderful, from Chief Lee Plennywolf with White Horse Creek Council. We have the wonderful medical journal article from AVMA here for our legislators. And we have the printout from AWI of all of the organizations, individuals, and groups that support the SAFE Act. So that is what we will be presenting to our legislative offices today. And thank you to Tawnee and Jason for being here today, and to Deborah West of Liberty Sanctuary for being here today. And we're looking forward to a great day on the Hill and a great day tomorrow as well.
So how many meetings do we have today?
We have 6 meetings today, and 19 deliveries with hopes and hopes for drop-in meetings. And tomorrow we have 16 meetings. So,
Wow.
that's it.
Busy, busy, busy.
We're now walking up to the House of Representatives on the Hill, and we've got all our group with us, and it's going to be interesting to see who all we get to talk to today and what effect we can have, what influence we can have speaking for the horses.
We're here at our first meeting location, and we'll see how today goes. We have a lot of meetings today, but tomorrow we have even more meetings, and it's very important that we're able to come and share our world with the people, and this is their world, office buildings and space and papers. And you know, I've been in the trenches, I've been down in the mud with these horses in the slaughter pipeline, and it's very important to be able to tell their stories and why these laws need to be changed. So that's what I'm here to do.
So we're doing a lot of drop-offs. We can just go to the representative's office, drop off the information for them. They can study it on their own time. We also have a lot of scheduled meetings, which are a little more in depth, like half an hour long. So kind of an appointment to meet our actual representative from Tennessee. So hopefully we'll be able to meet with him and share with him what's going on in the horse industry and how he can help support horses being safe.
All right, we're just leaving a Tennessee office and had a really great talk with them about trying to strengthen the laws in Tennessee, that just anybody shouldn't be able to geld a horse. Meeting went really well. Got some more great contacts, so now we're headed to the next meeting. We have only a few minutes to get there before we're late, and we are hurrying, trying to get to the next one. Okay, we just had a really good meeting. We were able to meet with the congressman, had questions about horse abuse and horse slaughter and all these things. We were able to answer some questions and bring some information to light as far as like the AVMA did a study about horse slaughter and that it's toxic, and so he's unaware of that. So great education, being able to meet with the congressman himself.
So he was pretty, so we grabbed Congressman Rouser. It's taken us a long time to get a meeting with him. He pretty straightforwardly said that he's pro-slaughter.
But he's against abuse. He doesn't want abuse to happen.
Correct.
But slaughter, or the current system, slaughter and abuse are hand in hand.
Right. He did say that he has, when we brought up the criminal element of it and the kill buyers and their character, he said he had absolutely no tolerance for that behavior. So he was very supportive of that. He said that's just not something he will stand for. So maybe that impacted him a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think he's going to probably research what the AVMA said.
Yeah.
The fact that horse meat is toxic is something that a lot of these folks are not thinking of. So I think it was a good meeting.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah.
It was nice. We got
is directly reflected in the numbers dropping, you know?
Yeah, the demand is going down. So
So
we'll see.
Yeah, so every once in a while you get in their office.
And it was really nice that he met with us. Like the meeting was not with him, so it was. I think that was a big win.
Yeah, I think Congressman Rouser took a chance. He had other things to do, and he was wonderful. It was really great to talk to him. What we have today is we actually have a signature board that we are delivering courtesy of Diane Smith, who is one of our members in AWE, who did signature boards at the Horse Expos, and she provided us with 19 horse boards, signature boards, to deliver to a number of different offices. So this one's for you, Diane. We'll be delivering one of your boards today momentarily, and we'll also see if they have a moment to talk with us. That was a last minute meeting with Westerman's office. So we got in there, we delivered the signature board provided by one of our advocates, and then we had a brief meeting with their ag person on HR 3475, and delivered our packet of information, and Tawnee delivered her packet.
So
Off we go.
Off we go to the next one. We love to actually be able to get into an office and be able to present more, and sometimes it's just meeting in the hallway. We do everything we can, any opportunity we have to be the voice for horses and talk to somebody that has the power of making change, we try to do it.
So these are, this is really an amazing demonstration of advocacy on the part of a Colorado constituent who does information tables at course complex shows, and she did signature boards, and they look like this. So you have signatures front and back all over, and designed by her, and it has specifically the issue at hand, and she did both SAFE Act as well as HR 3656. So here's a SAFE Act example, and these are going to go out to 19 offices, and so we're making rounds. We have already delivered several, and we are on our way to the following offices. Representative Pete Stauber out of Minnesota. He's on the Natural Resources Committee, and Natural Resources is where HR 3656 sits. This is Dina Titus's bill to amend the Wild Horse and Burro Protection Act. The next office we're going to is Susie Lee, and she is already a co-sponsor on the SAFE Act. The next office we're going to is Representative Tom Tiffany, and he is also on the Natural Resources Committee. And the next office after that will actually be G.T. Thompson, and G.T. Thompson is the chair of the Ag Committee, and so he is going to be, he's a high target for us to get the SAFE Act pushed through. And then the next office we're going to will be Representative Doug LaMalfa, who we actually have a meeting with. So we're going to meet with his office about the SAFE Act, and we're also going to deliver the signature card for HR 3656 for Diane. And so we have many, many more, which we might not get to today.
I think it's just really important. You might see things of like, hey, please sign this. We need signatures to help change laws, and you might think they never go anywhere, or like, how come if I sign this piece of paper or sign this petition, is it really going to make it up and make a difference? And yes, like, we're actually here and Britta's got them all and delivering them. So if you see someone asking like, hey, please sign this, have faith. Like, we are all working very hard to get you here, whether it's in person or through your signatures, to be an advocate for the horses. So how do you feel the last meeting went?
I feel like this last meeting went really well. Deborah rocked it.
Great
there.
job, great job.
Deborah's first time lobbying, and that was really amazing.
All right, so Deborah, you just did your first meeting. How was it?
First, I think it was great, but I also know I want to edit some more tonight, and but it's all positive, and she was very receptive, so that's great.
That's awesome.
I really appreciate that.
So, and it's very important to tell the horses' story and what's happening with them. So, what do you think what's your goal and impact of being here over the next 2 days?
Change some hearts and minds. Really make an impression, make them realize what it's like to be rescuing the horses and trying to help them move into productive lives, and that it's possible.
Yes, it is possible to make change, and that's what we're here. We're going to get as much change as we possibly can. The most, I think, shocking thing of all of this is you go into these offices, you have these meetings, and they're like, we had no idea this was such an important issue. And that's why we're here in Washington, D.C., and being the voice for horses and showing them firsthand, photos and videos that we have captured over the last 20 years. And the last office we visited, they were like, hey, this is great. We can do this for you. And, the more co-sponsors get on the SAFE Act, that's what's going to end slaughter. And front lines for both of us, 20 years of animal rescue, nothing has changed. And that's where it was like, we have to do something. So that's why we're focusing on trying to really make a huge impact on a national level. And we have great people at our organization taking care of the animals and everything, so we can come up here and speak from experience. We can't take video cameras in and show these meetings that we're having, but if you were able to see them, I think you would be shocked at the people being like, wow, we didn't know this. And it's I would talk to one person, congressman, we actually were able to talk with him in his office, and he's like, I am pro-slaughter. And as we were talking, I said, do you know, like, horse meat is tainted, and the AVMA has come out and they're against horse slaughter now. And he's like, no, I didn't know that. And so that could change his mind. It's very crucial, important work we're doing. And I just want to thank you so much for all of your support to help us rescue, shelter, and protect horses, because this is a big part of protecting them. I can trade. Okay. Trade. So you feel the weight of this. Can you imagine that being on a horse, and then you also have this chain?
No, that would be absolutely miserable.
Like, it's
suffering.
Unbelievable that they.
No, I could get a workout.
They don't take a multi-mount. It was really nice being able to have the stacks here, and I was able to bring out the stack, and the lady held it and she couldn't believe how heavy it was. So it's great having those props here, and the booklet is making a huge impact, and I think the meetings are going really well. We'll get Jason's input on it.
They're going really good. And Tawnee, of course, is as eloquent as ever, and she's able to speak clearly and with great authority on the subject because we've both been living it for 21 years.
Yes. So, and then this is for Northern California is where we're at right now. So, which I grew up in Northern California. And this is where we did our meeting. It's in the hallway. It's very noisy, but this is how it is, and we're doing the very best to bring awareness. And it's just one office after another all day long. We're actually walking to a meeting right now, but we're here in Washington, D.C., and yesterday was a great day of lobbying. We got to talk to a lot of important decision makers, and today we have a lot of meetings lined up too. So we're doing the best we can to be the voice for horses here in Washington, D.C. It's really amazing that a lot of these folks have never heard about what's actually happening on the front lines of horse rescue. When we're in Washington, D.C., we walk and we walk and we walk. We are going to be talking to whoever will listen, whoever we have meetings with, about what we see firsthand. So I hope you enjoyed this little update as we're walking along. We've been walking for quite a while, and we are excited about the change we have the potential of making by educating people here in Washington, D.C. on why horse laws need to be strengthened. So it's going to be a busy day. It is a very busy day at Washington, D.C. We're going to a lot of different offices. We've had some meeting cancellations. We've had some new ones where we're just kind of going with the flow today, but that is the way it is sometimes. So my name's Tawnee Preisner. I'm with Horse Plus Humane Society. I actually founded Horse Plus Humane Society when I was like 19, over 20 years ago. And now it's grown to be the largest horse rescue in the United States, and we also do global work. Our organization, we have 20 employees, we have 2 full-time veterinarians, so our organization is still very actively rescuing horses on the front lines, but I'm coming to Washington, D.C. to try to raise awareness of what's happening. We have the human health aspect of the tainted meat and also the abuse that's going unchecked within the slaughter pipeline. It is important to get the information into the hands of decision makers because a lot of them have no clue about what horses go through. They see horses on TV or something or in a horse movie, and that could be like some folks' only interaction with horses. So being able to show the side of the reality of horses are being horrifically tortured in the United States and the level of abuse that happens within the slaughter pipeline, it's really important to share these things. So far I've been really excited about this trip and the the presentations we've been able to do, I think, are really making an impact.
It is day 3 of being on the Hill, and we are going to be our final day here of lobbying. We have more pamphlets to drop off, and we might get a few meetings, but this has been a very successful trip. I feel like we had a lot of really positive meetings, and it's a weird way of helping horses to me. Still, it seems a little foreign, but I totally understand that if laws don't change, horse slaughter is just going to continue until the demand gets so little. Ultimately, I feel like it's going to shut down, but we need to come together and shut it down sooner, because in 20 years of animal rescue, we haven't seen any changes. We're heading into this building, and we're going to be in there, and if any of the congressmen or congresswomen have supported the SAFE Act, we're also going to be thanking them for supporting it. So just dropping in and saying thank you so much for supporting the SAFE Act, which would end horse slaughter. So we'll see how today goes. As I get different cards and things from different offices, I'm sending them back to Angela, who's going to help me get all the emails to them as follow-up emails, and maybe schedule some Zoom meetings since we weren't able to meet in person here. So just trying to do as much as we can while we're here. I'm just getting ready to go into this office, and New York passed a law that horses cannot be sent through New York for the purpose of slaughter. So anyone that is in New York should automatically sign up on the SAFE Act, because their state already voted and passed a law that horses cannot be transported through New York, and that shut down one of the pipelines going to Canada. So hopefully drop this by and maybe they'll sign on too. I'm about ready to go into another office, and we're just on one floor and passing these booklets out, and there has been 2 co-sponsors for the SAFE Act and the PAST Act, and going in and just thanking them, I think is crucial, because if they're getting the feedback that somebody actually came in person to thank them for supporting the SAFE Act and the PAST Act and these acts that are impacting the lives of horses, it's going to show them that it's important. And so I'm about to go in and just thank them for supporting the PAST Act and SAFE Act. The PAST Act would end horse slaughter, and the SAFE Act would end horse slaughter, and then the PAST Act would end the big lick. So we'll just pop in and thank them. All right, I'm going in to give the last booklet away, and we really need donations to get more booklets so we can give them to the representatives. If we got these into every office, they would be educated. It's about $2.50 per booklet. I am going to add a few more things onto this. One of them I feel very important to add on is that the veterinarian AVMA has decided, after a deep research into horse meat, that it is very toxic and harmful for humans. So the AVMA used to be pro-slaughter, and they have removed the support because the horse meat is toxic. So this has moved from a horse welfare issue to a human health and safety issue from consuming horse meat, and also a horse welfare issue. So I feel like if we can really pound these streets, go office to office, get this information into the hands of decision makers, this will end, but we need your support to make it happen. So last one means we're gonna be done for the day.
We have completed 2 days of lobbying in DC. This is the second round, second trip that Tawnee and Jason have made to lobby with Advocate for Wild Equine Grassroots Lobbying Coalition. And I will say that lobbying in DC with Tawnee and Jason has really changed the game. It has really upped the challenges to our legislative offices. It has brought a whole different aspect and perspective to the lobbying. It gives them information that they're not going to get anywhere else. And so having Tawnee and Jason with me in these meetings and with the constituents in these meetings has been priceless. And I hope that this becomes a long-standing and regular thing because we need them on the Hill, absolutely. And I from the first time I heard Tawnee and Jason
lobby in a meeting, I felt like, okay, this could be the game changer. This could be the thing that could push it over. And so I'm just so happy to have them here. I feel relieved every time, you know, they say, oh, we can do this again. So I hope that we continue to do this together.
So that is a really good look of what it looks like to go to Washington, D.C. And the first time I was there and where it really was clicking that this is so critically important is we met with that one representative staffer person that the other lady said was going to be very difficult to connect with. And it was California, I believe. And in California, there is a law put in place in '97 that made it illegal to sell or transport horses out of the state for slaughter. And most people, like say somebody was hired to go speak to them from one of these big organizations, will have no clue of that. But I was in California for years doing undercover work with the slaughter pipeline, trying to get horses out of it and show where these big feedlots were and things that were conducting illegal activity. So when I met with her, I'm like, you know, for California not to support the SAFE Act, it goes against what your laws are. And she's like, really? Like, I'm like, yes, in 97, California made a law against shipping horses to slaughter, so your support for the SAFE Act should be a given. And she's like, And I answered lots of questions for her, and it's about getting up and educating those people that they're really clueless about what it comes with horses. Now, there's some people that I've met that, oh yes, you know, I rode horses when I was a kid, or my family has horses and stuff, but most horse people have no clue what the slaughter pipeline is or how horrific it is. So these are the most two important acts that are the highest priority for me. The SAFE Act would shut the slaughter pipeline down. It would be adding two words, I think, to an already existing anti-dog and cat slaughter law. So it would be adding and equine to a law. Like, that is so easy. And I really feel like we've heard, as horse people, we've heard the SAFE Act around forever, and it's like it's never going to happen. I really, truly feel that it is the closest to ever happening before that I've ever seen it, because it's just adding two words. Now, the PAST Act is very, very important, has a huge amount of support in Washington, D.C. That would end the Big Lick. And if you're in Tennessee or you've done any research about Tennessee walking horses in the Big Lick, it is horrible. Dawn is going to be joining me up here pretty soon to talk more about that. And the amazing thing is that the USDA has come out with a federal ruling that would end the Big Lick altogether. And it's like, it's everyone working together to make this happen, but I'm like, wow, like, this might be done. Now, I've seen where it's almost ended before, and new rulers came in and chalked everything off, and we started from scratch again, but this is a federal ruling by the USDA that ultimately would completely do away with the chains and the stacks, and you've got stacks on all your tables. And if you can imagine an 8-pound stack connected to a horse's hoof forever, for that horse's life, as long as it's performing. Like, they don't take it off after the show and they run around. Like, horses live in those. It's very, very difficult for them to get up and down. It's really a horrific situation. So those are the two that I am most passionate about, that I feel like are the top priorities of this would end so much suffering. The second one is the Wild Horse Protection Act is trying to remove helicopters from rounding up horses, and it would still have roundups happening, but it would be working with local ranchers basically to conduct the roundups. So instead of a huge corporate organization that has a big contract with the government with lots of helicopters, it would be providing jobs for local people. Now, I know in Washington, D.C., because folks that are involved with Mustangs can be very passionate at times. In Washington, D.C., there are offices that if they know that you're connected with wild horses, they won't even let you have a visit with them. I mean, you can come give stuff to their staffer, but unfortunately, when people are unprofessional and are just upset and angry, which a lot of Mustang people, we have so much anger because we see these horses getting rounded up, that we go up to Washington, D.C., and they're very unprofessional, and they're rambling about all kinds of things that they're like, let's not waste our time with these folks. And unfortunately, there are folks that will not have meetings with Mustang groups because it's just become a bad name up there. And that is very sad and very unfortunate. With the Full Circle Life Horse Shelter Network, I would love if we could have people from across the United States representing their districts being able to come to Washington, D.C., be very professional, know what you're talking about, and not going down tangents, and being flexible. Like if you noticed, a lot of those meetings were in the hallway, and meetings get canceled. Like, we're not high priority on them, but there's always somebody else you can go talk to. So if a meeting gets canceled, know that another door is going to open up, and you have to just kind of go with the flow. I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but the IAJO Act, if the SAFE Act gets passed, the IAJO Act would ultimately, it would happen because sadly, and if you go on Amazon, you put that word in, or you put donkey gelatin, you can go on Amazon and buy this product. Thousands and thousands of donkeys are being slaughtered around the world for a protein in their hides. And in Africa, entire villages are being their donkeys are getting wiped away because people are stealing them and slaughtering them for their hides. And they don't have the donkey that hauled the water to their family anymore. And it's causing a huge crisis around the world. And you can buy this on Amazon. I really, really hope that this will happen. There's very, very little support for this in Washington, D.C., just because people really just don't even know about it. I mean, I bet half the room didn't know about this donkey hide gelatin. And we're horse people, so how are we supposed to expect Washington, D.C. folks to know? I made this the first time I went to Washington, D.C. Off of, some of you all might have seen a similar sketch, like a handwritten thing that was kind of like this. We enhanced it, made it a little more professional. And this resonates so well with Washington, D.C. people. Like, I would show them, I just went to Walmart and printed off like a 8x10 photo of it. And they would look at it and they're like, wow, can I have this? Like, they're starving for knowledge of how horses end up in the slaughter pipeline, what's behind the slaughter pipeline, because they have very little information up there. And so this does amazing wonders for folks. So again, we've got the SAFE Act, very, very important. And I show these pictures. Like, I was invited in December to go up to Washington, D.C., and I'm like, well, I don't know how to lobby, but I'm going to show them things. So I have a presentation on Canva, and I show them these pictures, and they're like, wow, and some of them are like, hard for them to see, and it's unimaginable that this is happening. And I don't go into the slaughter, I don't show them like that slaughter video, I just show them what happens to horses before they even get there. And they're shocked. And at the end of the day, the other lady that is a lobbyist, she's lobbied for years, she's like, they told us that we shouldn't do presentations, but you've done all these presentations and they're really engaged. And I'm like, well, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to, but it seems to work. So they're getting presentations of what I am seeing firsthand. The Big Lick is absolutely horrible, and we're going to be going into that shortly. Horrible, horrible things happen to Mustangs. And I try to, when I'm putting documentation together, I try to show it's bad to get their attention, but not so bad that they might not look at the material at all. And I know that's pretty horrific with the leg up there, but it really drives home that this is really bad. But you really can't see too much of it in the small print in the booklet. And there's more information about the IAJO Act. What's happening for donkeys is absolutely horrific. And I have seen the price of donkeys get a lot more expensive in the United States at auctions because I really believe that a lot of American donkeys are being exported to Mexico, and they're taking advantage of this market for donkeys. All right, we're going to talk about the Big Lick, and we're going to play. How many of you know about the Big Lick? Okay, I knew a little bit about it before we came to Tennessee, and after being here in Tennessee, I was like, oh, this is way worse than I thought. And I'm going to show you all a news clip of a trainer that got busted. And then Dawn's going to come up and join me, and I might even have Justin come up and join me because he also knows a lot about this since he's been protesting ever since he was like, what? Yeah. He's been protesting and trying to be the voice for horses. So go ahead and watch this. I think you're going to learn a lot of how horrible and corrupt this system is. So pretty shocking. So that person was convicted, put on a lifetime ban of not being involved with the Tennessee walking horse shows and all this stuff. I think it was 2 years ago. He was presenting a trophy at the celebration. This is a very, very corrupt entity in Tennessee, and it's basically the wealthy people that have done this for generations. They had plantations, their families had plantations, they rode Tennessee walking horses to observe their property as they would ride around and look at them, and back then property was also humans. They have these now horses that they are abusing. And in Tennessee, it used to be that animal controls could evaluate horses and do horse cases. Now in Tennessee, if there's a horse problem, you have to go through the Tennessee Agricultural Crimes Unit to let them investigate the horses. Any guesses why that was put in place? There was a Big Lick person that got caught by some animal controls that were investigating this and exposing it. And they're like, oh, we don't want this to happen again. Let's put another element to protect our industry. And I've been told that by somebody who's very knowledgeable in Tennessee animal law, and it makes 100% sense to me. So, Dawn, if you want to come on up here. This is a horse we rescued from auction in one of the stacks on this table. He had open wounds there on his legs from chemical burns. He was supposed to go win at the celebration. They unwrapped his legs and realized they cooked him a little too long, and he had all those open injuries there from chemical burns, so they took him to an auction where I rescued him. This is a horse at our shelter now. This is Glimmer, rescued him from an auction. That is all open, icky, sore, chemical burns on his legs. And when these Tennessee walking horses get to a point where they are abused to that level, they dump them in the slaughter pipeline, they disappear.
The stacks that were on this first table here are Glimmer stacks.
So in that photo. We have worked very hard in Tennessee since we got here, and that was one of the reasons that brought us to Tennessee, is we're like, this needs to stop. And I am very excited to tell you that on that field trip, unforgettable field trip, we're going to go protest, and we're going to go to a Big Lick horse show, and you're going to be able to see it firsthand. And I do want to tell you, as far as protesting, well, how should they behave while they're protesting? Justin, if you can come up here.
This one isn't as bad as Shelbyville, but we will get a lot of resistance from the owners, the people driving. Just wave. We won't get...
We have to be professional. But we've been out there protesting for years, and the fact that the USDA has said this is over in February, this won't be able to happen. You have the opportunity today to go to a Big Lick horse show and see what might never ever happen again next year. And we can hope and pray that it is. So when we're protesting, we stand along the street. We say Big Lick is abuse. We can be a little vocal. We don't want to be unruly. We don't want to block traffic. But the amazing part of what we get to do is at the celebration, it's private grounds. We can't actively go in there and do a Facebook Live video and tell our supporters what's happening. When we first started protesting at where we're going today, it's held at a public park, and we went in there. The police were escorting us off because we couldn't be there from a public park. That gentleman that we've talked about, Clint C., he worked so hard to for the rights of, in a public place you can be there. The county that we're going to spent over around $300,000 to $400,000 fighting it, saying, no, you can't take pictures in a public park because they don't want this exposed. We're going to a public park where you can take photos, you can watch this, we can go right up to the ring and see this firsthand, and I encourage you to do a live video feed to your supporters and tell them what you see. This is a very, very rare opportunity, and this could be the last opportunity that we have, because you might not be able to see this next year. And at the next big show in the celebration, we can't go in and have the freedom that we'll have because Clint C. worked so hard for us to have this. Anything you want to add onto this?
This is going to be amazing. If this is the last year, Clint has worked so hard for many years to get this done, and he passed away last year. So if this could end, it would be a great accomplishment for him.
Yeah, and he worked so entirely hard, and I was like, oh, Lord, please let him see the victory of this, because I don't want to do this alone. Like, he did so much. And today we'll all be able to go out and we will stand and be the voice for these horses. You'll see that there's a lot of money involved. Like, there's semi-trucks bringing horses in from these stables, and they bring them in right before the shows because they don't want them to, have all the stuff that's going on as far as getting them sorted and ready for showing like this. I really want to encourage each and every one of you, when the flat-shod horses are there, let's cheer for them and show support for them. It drives the big lick folks crazy, but these folks who show flat-shod by the big lick people, they call them sissies. Like, they really try to shame them. So it'll be great to show support. Now, some of these horses that are being shown flat-shod have wore stacks before and have been shorn, but they are being showed for their natural ability without devices. So we want to support that.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the lady that we got rid of?
Okay.
Or almost got rid of?
Here you go.
So we were out protesting one year. I don't remember which year it was, but they do not like us. I'm sure you can understand that. But the driver of the truck, he actually tried to run one of the protesters over. So make sure you're not on the road. Make sure that you're just a little bit off the road, so you can back up. The lady did end up winning, or not winning, but like she sued him for like a little over $50,000, and she won. So I mean. The thing with this is, and Justin's been protesting ever since he was a little guy. But when we first started, it was violent, it was rough, and they were used to being the bullies. These are basically the bullies of Tennessee who have money. Nobody's ever been able to say anything, and they can bully horses. And when we first started protesting out there, multiple times they were trying to run protesters over, and yelled at, cursed at. I mean, it's rough, but we just want to show our support to the horses being shown for their natural abilities. So we will be talking more about it, but it's going to be quite the adventure for you all, and a once in a lifetime opportunity. So we're going to take a break, and then we will be going into our next presentation, which is also a very good presentation. I'm excited to share with you all. So thank you so much.
Thank you.